It started with silence, months of it. Taehyung and Jungkook, once the inseparable duo known as the soulmates of BTS, hadn't spoken in months. Fans noticed. The playful V-Live appearances, the inside jokes, the stolen glances during award shows, gone. Replaced by an eerie stillness that stretched across social media like a void. Neither addressed it publicly, but AMY wasn't fooled. Behind closed doors, something had fractured. Taehyung, ever the poetic soul, buried himself in art, fashion, and photography. He posted late-night shots of sunsets, cryptic song lyrics, and melancholy paintings on his Instagram. Jungkook, on the other hand, drowned in work. His studio light burned late into the night. He was constantly seen with producers, experimenting with darker music, rawer lyrics, heavier beats. Both were evolving, separately. But what had happened between them? Industry whispers hinted at an explosive fight during an overseas trip for a documentary shoot. Something personal. Something that cut deep. Neither ever confirmed it. But after that trip, they stopped interacting altogether. No comments, no likes, no shared content. Until, one night in August. It was 3:47 a.m. in Seoul. Jungkook sat alone in his studio, working on a track he couldn't finish. Something was missing. He played the instrumental on loop, the haunting chords echoing through the room. His phone buzzed once. One notification. A message from a name he hadn't seen pop up in months. Taehyung. No emoji. No hey. No introduction. Just 4 words. Do you remember this? Attached was a voice memo. Jungkook hesitated. His heart raced. His thumb hovered over the play button. Finally, he tapped. And then, Taehyung's voice filled the room. It wasn't just a voice note. It was a demo. A forgotten one. A track they'd worked on secretly a year ago, just the two of them. It was raw, intimate, imperfect, and real. Their laughter at the end, Taehyung's half-spoken verse, Jungkook's unexpected harmonies. They had recorded it at 2 a.m. in a hotel bathroom during a chaotic tour night in Europe. Jungkook paused the track. He sat in silence. Then he did something unexpected. He picked up his phone and replied. How did you find this? Seconds passed. Then Taehyung responded. I never deleted it. I couldn't. That was it. The silence cracked. What followed was a floodgate of messages. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just, real. Old jokes. Studio notes. Song ideas. Taehyung sent a meme Jungkook had once made about him snoring during flights. Jungkook replied with a blurry photo of Taehyung sleep-drooling in a makeup chair. Laughter returned, quietly at first, then louder. But the true shift came days later. Jungkook was doing a surprise late-night livestream. He was talking about music, upcoming projects, joking with fans when someone asked about collaborations. He paused. Then said, There's someone I want to work with again. It's been a long time. His eyes flickered toward the screen, as if daring someone to read between the lines. Within minutes, ARMY exploded. Taekook comeback, trended worldwide. Hours later, Taehyung posted a photo on his Instagram story, a blurry shot of 2 mugs of coffee, placed side by side. One with a bunny drawn on it, the other with a tiny bear. No caption. Just a timestamp, 2:36 a.m. It didn't take a genius to figure it out. They were together. After months of silence. After rumors and speculation. After unspoken distance, they were in the same room again. Insiders later revealed that Jungkook had invited Taehyung to his studio. The two talked for over 5 hours. No management. No cameras. No staff. Just them. What they said remains a mystery. But what happened next? History. Days after the reunion, Big Hit released a teaser, black and white footage of Taehyung and Jungkook in a dimly lit room, surrounded by instruments, laughter echoing faintly in the background. No voices. No song title. Just 2 silhouettes and a date. ARMY was shaken. On release day, the world stopped. The song, titled Rewind, was a slow-burning R&B ballad. Lyrics that spoke of time, forgiveness, distance, and the ache of nearly losing someone you thought would always be there. It wasn't just a song. It was a confession. The bridge, sung by Jungkook, sent chills. I said too little when you needed more, now your silence is the loudest war. Then Taehyung's deep voice cut in. But I kept the echo of your voice buried in a song we never finished. Fans wept. Critics called it the most emotionally vulnerable track of the year. Celebrities from around the world reposted it. The streaming platforms crashed temporarily. Rewind became the fastest Korean duet to hit 100 million streams. But more importantly, something unspoken had healed. At the launch interview, the two finally sat side by side. Smiling. Awkwardly, but genuinely. A reporter asked the inevitable question. You guys didn't interact publicly for months. What changed? Taehyung looked at Jungkook. Jungkook smiled and said, one message. Laughter erupted, but the emotion lingered. They didn't say more. They didn't have to. Their song said it all. Since then, the duo has been inseparable again. From secret cafe meetups to late-night studio sessions. Jungkook even dyed his hair a shade Taehyung had jokingly picked years ago. Taehyung was spotted wearing a hoodie Jungkook gifted him on his 21st birthday. And then, on a quiet evening in Busan, during a surprise mini-concert, they sang Rewind live for the first time. As the final note faded, Jungkook turned to Taehyung and, with a voice barely above a whisper, said, thanks for messaging me. Taehyung's eyes glistened. He nodded and replied, thanks for replying. In that moment, under the soft lights, two souls who had drifted apart found their way back, not as idols, but as friends. As brothers. As something beyond titles and fan-shipped names. The silence between them had once been deafening. But now, their bond echoed louder than ever before. And all it took was one message. The moment Jungkook hit send on his reply to Taehyung, it felt like a dam had broken, one that had been silently building pressure for months. Behind that one message was a flood of emotions, guilt, longing, nostalgia, and a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find each other again. After that exchange, neither slept. By 5 a.m., they were still texting back and forth. The distance between them, once as wide as oceans, had now shrunk to a digital thread connecting two hurting hearts. Suddenly, Taehyung sent, "Want to meet?" Jungkook stared at the screen. He wasn't ready. Or maybe he was. He just didn't know it yet. Now, he typed back, "Yeah. Let's just talk." 15 minutes later, Jungkook stepped out of his studio into the early morning mist of Seoul, hoodie over his head, mask on. No bodyguards. No staff. Just him. The city was asleep, unaware that two global superstars were about to collide again, not on a stage, but in a quiet corner of a closed world. They met at an old rooftop spot they'd both loved during their trainee days. It overlooked the Han River, and in the past, they had often sat there dreaming of the future. That night, the city lights reflected in the water like a painting. Jungkook got there first. His hands trembled. Then, footsteps. He turned, and there Taehyung was. Wearing the same oversized cardigan he used to wear backstage, looking both familiar and heartbreakingly distant. For a long moment, neither said a word. Just eyes searching each other's face. Not for answers, but for something deeper. Recognition. Forgiveness. Then Taehyung spoke. "You haven't changed." Jungkook smiled, painfully. "You have. But in a good way." And just like that, the ice broke. They sat, shoulder to shoulder, on the cold cement ledge, legs dangling over the edge like they used to when they were just kids chasing dreams. Taehyung looked out at the skyline. "I almost deleted that voice memo 100 times. Jungkook turned to him. "Why didn't you?" Taehyung laughed softly. "Because I couldn't. That was the last time I felt like we were us." Jungkook swallowed hard. "Do you want to be us again?" Taehyung looked at him, eyes shining under the city lights. "I never stopped wanting that." Suddenly, all the buried pain rushed out. Taehyung confessed that he felt abandoned after their fight. That he had waited for Jungkook to reach out, and when he didn't, he began to wonder if their bond had only meant something to him. Jungkook, in turn, admitted that he thought he was giving Taehyung space, that he feared making things worse by speaking too soon. They had both waited. And that waiting almost destroyed them. The emotions spilled, not as dramatic breakdowns, but as quiet truths wrapped in pauses, in half-finished sentences, in the kind of vulnerability that can only exist between people who have once loved each other deeply, whether as friends, brothers, or something no label can hold. Then, in a moment that would later go viral after it was secretly caught on CCTV, Taehyung leaned his head on Jungkook's shoulder, and Jungkook didn't move. He just let it happen. And for the first time in months, they were silent together again. But this time, it wasn't awkward. It was healing. That same day, Jungkook brought up something unexpected. That demo. Let's finish it. Taehyung's eyes widened. You're serious? Jungkook nodded. If that's what brought us back, it deserves a proper ending. A week later, they were back in the studio, not with staff or producers, but just the two of them, as they had started. The same cramped space, the same beat-up mic, and the same energy that once sparked magic. But now, they weren't boys chasing a dream. They were men rebuilding a bond. The first night in the studio was awkward. The tension of their past still lingered in the air. But music did what words couldn't. Taehyung began humming a new melody over the chorus. Jungkook layered in a counter-harmony. Without realizing it, they were dancing around each other musically, feeling, adjusting, flowing. At one point, Taehyung stopped and laughed. You still do that thing where you oversing the bridge. Jungkook shot back, grinning, and you still mess up the second verse on purpose just to annoy me. They laughed. Real laughter. The kind that comes from old, familiar places. What they created that week wasn't just a song, it was a journey through every emotion they'd buried. From resentment to regret, from fear to forgiveness. And when they recorded the final version of Rewind, it wasn't just their voices that were layered into it, it was every unsent message, every unspoken apology, every silent night they spent missing each other. When the song dropped, fans lost it. But what happened privately that night after the release was something no one saw. Jungkook and Taehyung sat together on a couch in Big Hit's listening room, lights off, letting the song fill the space. When the last note played, Jungkook turned to Taehyung. I missed this. I missed you. Taehyung didn't speak. He just reached out and pulled Jungkook into a hug, a long, silent embrace that said everything words never could. The next day, fans noticed something. Taehyung posted a black and white photo of Jungkook on his Instagram story, captioned only with, "Always found. Never lost." And Jungkook, minutes later, posted a Polaroid photo of Taehyung laughing in the studio. Where you belong. From that moment on, everything changed. Not just for them, but for ARMY. The two began appearing together again, doing chaotic live streams, teasing each other in interviews, even joking about their breakup and makeup during fan events. The awkwardness was gone. What replaced it was a deeper bond, forged through fire, held together not by fame or music, but something much more powerful. Forgiveness. Their reunion wasn't just a headline. It was a story of growth, vulnerability, and the courage to heal. And as fans watched them walk back onto the stage side by side, arms draped over each other's shoulders, one thing became clear. Whatever broke them wasn't strong enough to keep them apart. Because in the end, all it took was one message, to bring two soulmates back home. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more exclusive BTS stories that will leave you breathless.